Hello everyone. Today's instrument is the human voice, specifically our own voice. Yes, we're going to use our own voice as the focus of the instrument today. Now, this brings up a lot of stuff for people. For some reason, vocalizing is very, very difficult. Not for everyone, but for a number of us, and I perfectly understand this. For many of us, we've been told that we can't sing, or to shut up, or that we're no good. And that kind of carries through. That could have happened at a very young age, and that carries through for the rest of our lives. And we find that we're not giving full voice to who we are. We can shut down this area, the throat chakra, but it can also shut down various parts of our body. And the harmonic self is a lot about opening up this whole body. John Rogers says that the whole body is the heart. And so we can look at that as our whole body being the heart, our whole body being love. And so we want this whole body to be resonant, not kind of stuck in various parts. And usually those memories are stuck in all kinds of places in our body, and we want to allow that sound to go through us and pass through us uninhibited. It really is a journey of personal growth. And it's not about performance. Although we could be said to be singing or chanting, toning, there's many words for it. It's not performance. It's not about sounding good, believe it or not. Just as well, I'm not a trained singer, or I haven't been coached in my voice. Perhaps a couple of friends along the way have given me some hints here and there, but nothing that I've really pursued. And it's a good thing, because if I was professionally trained and had this wonderful voice, then everybody would kind of feel intimidated. But because my voice is just pretty ordinary and I'm just doing the best I can, hopefully encourages you to do the best that you can. I have sung a couple of times, maybe 3 or 4 times in public. And a couple of those times, people burst out laughing. I've been kind of famous for my stand-up comedy throughout the years. And so when I stood up to sing a sincere song, people thought I was being funny and burst out laughing. It's quite something to be in a vulnerable, exposed moment where one is singing a sensitive song, particularly when one's not confident. Me, of confident of my singing voice, and to have people laugh at it. They weren't being cruel, but it still was, wow, that really puts you through something. We're not doing that. You're just at home and you can sing your heart out, and perhaps no one's listening, or maybe your immediate family is, but don't even worry about it. It's not about sounding good. It's about sounding. It's about finding your voice as a way of healing those parts of you. And we've approached this through the chakra centers, and I want to go over that a little bit with you today, but also go into another aspect of the voice that we can utilize. And it's quite a fascinating journey. So come along with me, and don't worry about how you're sounding. It's not about sounding good. It's about sounding, about toning. It's not surprising then that toning, whether in the Western form or in the Eastern form, has been part of religious spiritual life for hundreds, thousands of years. It's healthy and it can be devotional. And when you bring all those aspects together, one becomes a resonant being. So we ask for the highest and purest light from the highest and purest source to surround and fill each one of us and the space we're in at this time. Just take a moment for that to settle in. This light is really powerful stuff. It's easy to say, But when we really call ourselves forward into its presence, then the whole energy field changes. And similarly, when we call ourselves into our loving, again, the energy field changes. So we have the light and we have the love. And I like to put myself in the energy field of the Lord Jesus Christ, not as a religious situation, but just as this loving energy. So I ask for the Lord Jesus Christ to be with us, guiding us, assisting us, blessing us, and protecting us. I also ask for my spiritual teacher, John Roger, his energy and presence to infuse all that we're doing here. Again, that's that quality of unconditional love, which I had the fortune to experience in person. So that's really now calling for that energy field. And I also ask for the consciousness of the mystical traveler, that guide that is within each one of us that can assist us transmute any negativity, anything that's bothering us, fears, worries, concerns, dis-ease, taking it back into the nothingness from which it came for our highest good. Now, why do I do this every time? Because the energy field is the thing that does the work. It's got nothing to do with me. I'm just here chatting away. Once the energy field is established, I know that it's touching you, not because of me in any way, but because your openness. And once it touches you, that becomes a healing effect. And so I talk a little bit along here and just go along, and pretty much it's a distraction for this energy to come across, for you to be in it, to be open, so that when we sound, then we're all together. We're in this oneness. It's a beautiful thing. It really is. So in that openness and with the energy field established, you can also please set your intention for this session. And of course, we do want to take a moment to place ourselves in the light and also anyone in need at this time. I was listening to a beautiful piece by Chase Beach about her father, Stephen Beach, who has a brain tumor and is recovering from it, or had one actually, is recovering right now. And he's still in a wheelchair. And she was just talking in this article about how she's wheeling her father around the neighborhood. And in this time of pandemic, it's kind of a different and deeper experience for her. Light to Stephen Beach's healing journey. And his beautiful daughter Chase and wife Elaine and Ava. Those are the people that come to mind for me today. Maybe you have people in mind for you. These people in the heart of the pandemic. A friend of mine, Rochelle Zazou, working as a chaplain in one of the hospitals in New York City. There's so many people that need the light right now. Just whoever comes to mind, send it for the highest good. And then we just let it go. The light does the work, just as we talked about with the energy field. So the voice can evoke certain tones, and some of those tones can be sacred, and a lot of them involve vowel sounds. So let's just start with the chakra center, since we've been fresh with those. That was that. That was the root chakra. And just allow yourself to really feel that. Allow it to become like a purr. You know, the purring of cats is really, really healthy. Really healthy for healing and repairing bones and strengthening bones. It's really been scientifically proven to do that. I mean, the cats are cute, but they have this kind of healing property. when you intone, it's almost like an undertone rather than an overtone. When you intone, it creates a vibratory frequency. And when that frequency has an intention to it, it becomes very, very powerful. Just saying tones can work, not work, when the intention, and we've talked about perhaps the devotional aspect behind it as well. When you bring the loving into it, that also charges up this tone. So we start with the root chakra, or we don't have to, but we can just start there. Move up to solar plexus. I like to pause because I like the quiet afterwards, the silence, the space. The heart. Throat. Third eye. And the crown chakra. So in the last one, I really brought my attention to the crown of my head. You can start feeling myself leaving there for a moment, because the crown chakra becomes this exit for our consciousness. And that's why the mystical traveler consciousness becomes important at that point, that as we go out, we travel on that line of energy, which is loving and knows what's for our highest good. Now, as I've said many times, you could take any of these and move it through your body. I mean, this O, you could take It doesn't take long before you can start humming. Can be the hum like that, or it can be a lower hum. A higher hum. But I would just find a comfortable place where you can just hum for quite a while. Very, very healthy practice. We talked about how these vows can become sacred names. I mean, we can take as we kind of create sounds, we can move our mouth around. Like, notice my lips started coming together. Oh. This mouth of ours, called the buccal, B-U-C-A-L, buccal cavity, can just open and close and open up. And behind the soft palate, we can also lift that soft palate a little bit to create a little bit more space and a little bit more sound. and vibration that can again be very healthy for us. All these practices can have a spiritual element, or they can just have a health element, or they can have a releasing and letting go element, a psychological aspect if you wish. So let's just do the O again, and then we'll end it with a hum. So we'll just doesn't take a lot of imagination to find that we can just go into the sacred chant of the yogis. We can approach it as well of another way through the ah, oo, and then a hum. Another version of the same chant, and we can do that with many sounds. The one that, of course, we love to do in the movement of spiritual inner awareness is the hue, because that takes us through many levels of our consciousness. In fact, all the levels of our consciousness, from this physical world through into who we are, and even beyond that into what can be called the heart of God. So let's just do that. We'll do, let's say, 3 hues together. And again, by working with the buccal cavity, I don't know if you noticed on the O, you can do this for yourself, but as I'm lifting my upper palate and as I'm forming the vowel, I'm actually creating overtones. Now, overtones are, there's a fundamental note, so O, so that's pretty clear, oh. But as I begin to open the buccal cavity, other tones start to appear, and those are overtones. So there's tones within tones. So that gives the voice its resonance and its kind of depth of quality. Again, you don't have to sound good, just start to feel this out. So let's just do the hue 3 times. And again, we can do the hue by focusing on our third eye or our crown chakra, or we can bring the hue up through all our levels. It's just really up to you. Just start by taking a breath. We want to open up our diaphragm. So we can breathe through our chest, but that's fine to exercise the lungs a little bit, but it's also can create a stressful situation. A lot of people are what's called chest breathers. They're breathing here. And get the breath down into what could be called diaphragmatic breathing. Even diaphragmatic breathing isn't necessarily sticking out the stomach. It's really opening up the diaphragm, which is all the way around here. So it's just when we breathe in, it comes down, and when we breathe out, it actually lets go and domes up. Not quite as much as what I'm saying, but that's really its action. So when we take a breath, we want to have this diaphragm open up across. We can practice. It's a good practice actually to feel it in the sides of your body and also at the back of your body. You can feel the diaphragm open up in the back of your body when you're laying on your stomach. So if you're with a partner or someone, have them lay on their stomach and breathe in, and then you'll feel the diaphragm action in the back, which often we don't do. We open up here, but we fail to open up at the back, and most of our lung capacity is actually behind us in the back. So we just can exhale first, let go. As I exhaled, I felt my whole shoulders drop there, probably more relaxed as a result of me dropping my shoulders. So my shoulders relaxed, and exhale. Now I inhale, breathe in, and then as I hue, I can just push in the belly a little bit as I breathe out. So breathe in or receive the breath. Now notice at the end of my intoning, there was some croaking, some stuck places. And that tells me that there's some stuck places in my consciousness at this time. So what I would do is I would continue to do that until those things began to even out a bit. One of the things about overtone singing, and you can kind of look it up as everything, right? Just to Google it and look it up on YouTube. There's some people that can teach you the basics of overtone singing. The Mongolians have really got it down, but you don't have to go to that extreme. But just, it can be very gentle. I started to look into it because I was doing visitors' meditations at Peace, Awareness, Labyrinth and Garden. And visitors would come and would take them through a meditation. We'd do some sound, but I would also be doing the hue. Well, of course, they were completely new and they didn't know what chanting was. And so when I would just do the hue, sometimes I had a great group that they would really be joining me. But for the most part, people were very quiet or they weren't chanting at all. So I felt a little bit self-conscious, I guess, just chanting by myself with this group of people with nobody really participating. And so I learned the overtone singing, so I figured I'm just going to accompany myself. I don't care. And at that point, I didn't care. I was just like in my own world. Just finding that overtone and just having fun with it as I move through my consciousness. So we could use that with the chakras, and I paused at each one, but again, I think I've mentioned this, that, well, I know I have, that we can really just start with a kind of trailed off at the end there. not quite a good enough breath, but you can just go do that way and then go down the other way and just tone up your centers. Again, what you want to use, you could use do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. You could use the Sanskrit system, starting with lam and going up the various chakras with that way. Or you could just take one sound. Now, if you've been involved in some way with some of the workshops or seminars that I've done at Peace, Awareness, Labyrinth and Gardens, sometimes to bring people back into the body after they've done a sound bath, we'll chant the E. The E we can just take from the top of our head down throughout our whole body and then back up again. Or actually down, up and down. And that brings us back into the body. If you wake up in the morning a little discombobulated, this is a great chant to do. Or you feel a little spacey during the day. And it's just like E, from the from the low note to the top of the head. And you see some people use the arm gesture as well. And it can actually be quite healing as well. Finally, I just want to talk a little bit. I know it's a bit of a long session today, but I want to do something that I'll go into in more depth, which is the idea of the root note. What is our sound, our grounding sound, our ground of being I'm talking about here, not so much grounded, but our home. What is that note? Now in Indian classical music, they call it the sa, S-A, sa. And you have to find your sa. But we don't have to do sa, we can be ah. The ah not being so much A-H, but A-A-A-R. Ah. And one way again, we open up the diaphragm, and then as we breathe out, we kind of breathe out in a way that we could just say is like a ha, 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 ha. That feeling of like pushing in, ha. No, we're not going to do ha, but that's the ha. So as we breathe in, and then we can just open up our voice and have this gesture of surrender. And really open our voice and find that ah that resonates through our whole body. Let's just do a brief one. We just exhale, inhale, It's a question of finding that ah. Now, if you are in India or something, you would be doing that for about an hour or so. I recommend it for 5 minutes, if your neighbors can stand it or members of your family, where you just allow that just to go through you. And the idea is to find that note inside of you and all its elements. And once you do, you can always come back to that note. So if you're having a hard day, you meet someone who really bothers you, there's always somebody that's irritating or bothering you. If it doesn't take much to find in one's environment or in the news or whatever. There's always something out there. We all get thrown off track some way or another. We've all got our buttons and our trigger points. I think they're called triggers now. If you're triggered, then come back to your home note. And if you have your home note really clear, then you can never get lost. This really can be a very vital and wonderful thing to have. And just by simply this A-A-A-R, with a loving intention, things will really start to happen for you. And you'll start getting in touch with that, and it can clean you out very, very rapidly. So 5 minutes at that can, I think, have a big healing effect on us. So play around with it. If you get lightheaded, then, don't stop. We're not, I would stop until you get a bit grounded. But it's not the idea is to get lightheaded, by the way. Sometimes we'll get lightheaded because we're really beginning to breathe here, and sometimes that, we're releasing stuff, and this really is a release, or a freeing of our voice, a freeing of our being, really. And the point is, I mean, when we do some breathing work in some of the harmonic journeys, the breathing work being no work at all, because basically we're just receiving the breath, that we're being breathed. Eventually, you can come to that point where you feel like I'm being breathed. I'm not breathing, I'm being breathed. This is a similar thing, this openness. And of course, we always ask for the light, for the highest good. We're in this energy field, we're in this protection. And as we do that, we kind of merge with something much greater than us. And instead of sounding or toning, we find ourselves being toned. Baby Shan.